All set?
All right, good evening. Welcome to the Hingham Wilbraham Regional School District Planning Committee meeting. It is 6 o'clock p.m. It is April 23rd. We were called to order. We will begin with roll call in alphabetical order. Don?
Here.
Terry? Aye. Sean?
Here.
And Rachel? Aye. Will you please stand? Don will lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, so we will begin with the discussion of the feasibility of moving 6th grade to Green Meadows.
So it's just not feasible. Did look at it.
Don't hold back.
What's that?
Don't hold back.
Yeah, well,
That's a long version.
if you think about just the academic classes for 2 teams of 6th graders, you need 10. That's not even including the unified arts classes. There are currently 4 classes available if we fill the bubble class that the school committee directed us to fill. If we didn't fill that class, that would give us 5. But in either case, it's not enough.
Okay. Any further discussion?
May I ask where this idea came from?
They came up at a school committee meeting, I'm not exactly sure who, but someone said, you know, we were just thinking, and this is something we never discussed before, can you look into the feasibility of it? So I went down there and looked it over with Sharon, and it didn't take us long to figure out what it was.
But isn't the bottom line that nothing could be done unless we change the agreement?
Yes, this was just looking at the feasibility, agreement aside.
Why bother if we don't change the agreement?
Well, why bother to
If this
change
was
the
a-
agreement if it wouldn't work? If it
Right.
would work, we could say, hey, it would work.
Because you can't
Then we
do
can change
anything
it.
without changing the agreement. And
Right,
then
but
you
why
get
bother
over-
going through that effort if
Right,
it's
you
not,
got, you got over.
if it's not,
I would think that the school committee, but I'm just me, would say, okay, we want to change the agreement, this is what we need to change. And now that the agreement's changed, we could talk about all these different options and things and that, but until that time, we can't, am I wrong? You can't do anything, right?
but if it's not gonna work, there's no use going through that effort of changing the agreement.
I think,
How many students from Hamden are in Wilbraham Middle School?
The last time I looked at it, I think it was like 130 something.
why don't you think we can change the agreement?
No, I'm not saying we can't. I think if we need to, then it'll happen. But John's saying that plan is not feasible
Yeah,
to
right.
begin with, so there's no sense in bothering to even look at that
Well,
yet.
what I'm saying is, why don't, if we don't change the agreement, anything that John comes up with, or the school committee comes up with, can't work unless we change the agreement to allow it to be a real region. Right?
Well, it doesn't change the fact that there's no room at Wilbraham Middle School.
Right. Now, we can't solve that problem unless,
So I'll beat to the bush and I'll say the elephant in the room. If the Hampton kids all went back to Green Meadows and there was no collaboration of middle school, that would solve the overcrowding at the middle school.
It would also add about $380,000 to the budget, so that just needs to be taken into consideration. One of the ways that we were able to sort of get to the point where we're at right now with the budget is by eliminating the staff from the middle school, Green Meadows. I mean, the Green
No,
Meadows.
I mean, it makes sense. And I think the way it is a good idea. There's just no room there. The
Right.
kids are packed in like sardines.
Right,
It was like that, heck, 8 years ago, I'm trying to think how old my kids are, 8 years ago it was like that. So I mean, but we've got to come up with a solution.
yeah. And I was just pointing out that there's economic impacts of it,
Yeah,
if we were
for
to
sure.
say that.
For sure. Which economic impact works in the positive? Is there anything?
Did I say academic? I meant economic.
Economic,
Economic
sure.
impact.
Which works in the taxpayer's favor versus not? Is
Well,
there any?
I would say what's happening now is more efficient from a cost basis, because instead of running smaller classes at GM, you're running larger classes at the middle school.
Sure.
Problem is that the school just isn't designed for that many students.
Right. And a class of 20 is far better than a class of 30. you know, from an academic standpoint of
Mhm.
teaching and
Yep.
educating kids, especially in middle school when that's where problems are really gonna pop up.
Yep.
So what's your solution?
Well, the solutions we've looked at have all been unpopular, I think, in the community, so we continue to look at other options. One thing I've talked about doing is since there was a concern about sort of forcibly moving the entire 8th grade to the high school, is if we could do it on sort of a more voluntary basis by creating some programming at the high school. I have heard some concerns about that, you know, have heard that that may result in bifurcation of population, and so that's something that, you know, we need to think about if we head down that pathway. You know, another option, which we haven't looked at yet, I mean, just to name some other options, is the traditional solution that schools implement when they have overcrowding and they don't have facilities to move into is do double sessions. So, you know, you could say we do 6th and 7th graders at the normal start time, and we bring in 8th graders in the middle of the afternoon, they go into the evening. That would be another way of resolving the space crowding at the middle school. It would be, you know, some additional transportation costs, but wouldn't be overwhelmingly cost prohibitive. I think it also would probably be very unpopular, but it is a solution.
Because of all the extracurricular activities that students
Correct.
are involved in,
Correct.
they would, whatever grade comes in the evening, which you're saying 8th grade, they wouldn't be able to participate.
Plus, you know, supper time and all the rest of that stuff, you know, it is disruptive, but it is something schools do. You know, the other thing that we haven't talked about is, you know, if you want to shuttle kids back and forth all day, I mean, you could rotate kids through additional spaces at the high school so that no one would be there full-time, but it would take pressure off the middle school. So, you know, those are all we have right now. I think that's
What about the academy?
That's what I was talking about, if you create some specialized programming that people might voluntarily want to.
What were you calling the academy again? Just in general.
Innovation Pathway.
Innovation pathways. And how's that going? Have we taken any steps to look at that yet, or?
I have not. There's a lot of stuff that I'm tied up with right now. As I said, probably be about a year-long process to design an academy.
Yeah,
I
we
am
said
going to
that,
be
like,
talking,
We said that 4 months ago, so I was hoping that we'd be into it, like, but we're still a year out, correct?
right, right. I mean, I've also been connected with budget and many other things that have been taking up a great deal of time. And also, you know, I think if that's something that the committee as a whole wants me to do, that probably should be discussion at the committee level.
I think it was. I
Because-
thought it was. I thought everyone agreed, and didn't we make a motion to instruct John to begin the process?
Well, I think we talked about looking at different, I think we talked about like the survey, figuring out what interests, like a preliminary steps to begin at what it could look like. I don't know that we gave the instruction to formally begin to create the process.
This would be a volunteer type of event. Is it worth it to do a survey to see if anyone's even interested in doing this?
It is, but one of the things I mentioned is, one of the problems we had when we were talking about doing 8th grade at the high school is, not 8th grade at the high school, when we were talking about doing 2 more zone-based schools, is people wanted to know what the zones are. So doing an innovation pathway, you need to know what the pathways are gonna be, who the partners are gonna be, so, you know, it would take some time to line that
So
up.
this wouldn't be something just like all honor students, or what, could you explain the innovation pathway?
Under the innovation pathway designed by the Department of Education, your pathway has to be a reflection of your overall student body, so it should mirror everyone in 8th grade, you know. Which would mean that the group that wasn't participating should also be similar to the group that is participating.
Right, but that doesn't explain what innovation pathways is. Could you just give a?
Sure.
Yeah.
So an innovation pathway is it's like majoring in a subject or a field when you're in high school. It involves a specific sequence of courses that you take if you're part of the pathway. It involves some work-based learning experiences, at least 100 hours of work-based learning experiences is why you need to have an industry partner who can take the kids in. And the goal is for students to leave with some, well, everything they need for a high school diploma, some industry credentials, and then at least 2 AP or college level courses as part of the sequence.
I guess I'm not innovative enough to understand it. Are you saying like we could do like, you know, you wanna be an electrician, so we're gonna like do a program like that, or I was wondering?
Shouldn't be electrician because that's chapter 74, that's vocational. Think of this as sort of, not as specific as vocational, but more looking at fields. So
I wanna be a
one of
doctor,
the
I
fields
wanna
is-
be a nurse.
one of the fields is health and social services. So that is the innovation pathway. It would be a number of courses that are connected to that, that would also allow students either to go into a post-secondary program that's specializing in something like nursing. Well, there is really no pre-med, you basically just take a 4-year sequence and then you apply to medical school. But would prepare them for that, or would also prepare them for, I want to be an EMT. I want to do something that doesn't necessarily require me to go to college.
That's tough for an 8th grader to have, but, I mean, well, some kids do, but.
That's one of the concerns we've heard. That's one of the concerns we've heard. And one of the things that I'll say, just sort of as a counter to that, is you're getting all the credits you need for high school graduation. So if you decide you want to come off the path, you can come off the path. You're not behind in any way.
I think one of the most important things that we need to do with, regardless of how we choose to move forward, is making sure that we are able to get the information out to the public and sharing the benefits, sharing, almost like oversharing, campaigning, kind of, if you will, because I think that the messages are not reaching a
I mean, no
majority
one's
of
watching this
people.
meeting?
But even with, you know, because even if we choose to go forward with some of the paths that we chose before, I mean, I think that we learned, one of the things from the forum was that when we heard, you know, people's concerns, you know, and fears, but we also learned that not everybody had all the information, you know, so we've been sitting at this table every 2 weeks for the past year, but they haven't, and maybe they're tuning in, you know, later, but a lot of misinformation is out there, so it's important that we are providing accurate information and sharing the benefits. And sharing, you know, as often as we can, and really getting the message out there. So regardless of what we do, I think that's a really important step. And again, will we have 100% buy-in? No, we will not. But I think it's important for people to understand the regional agreement, how it affects the changes, and why we need to make the changes to the regional agreement, so we can move forward with, you know, the reconfiguration, with whatever, or reorganization of our districts.
And I look at this as, you know, we have special ed, we have regular ed, right? We are now expanding vocational to cover the 9th grade, 10th, you know, and that's just adding to offerings. And this thing here, I think this is what I like about it is, like you said, giving everyone that they need, what they need to graduate, but it's also just a different way of doing what we've been doing all these years, what our grandparents went through, what we went through, you know, it seems like it's a heading into the right direction of what is education gonna look like in the future, you know? Like, I really like this. I think this is really important. That way we're covering, and like I said, special ed, right, you know, peer students. Then we have, students that are going vocational, and for the ones that are going to college, we have something for them too. Plus we have AP, International Baccalaureate, stuff like that. You know, it's just having more offerings and more avenues for students to find their way, you know, and educate them I just think that's what our job is, you know. The more offerings, the better. I really like this innovation pathways. You know, I want this to happen, or I want, you know, let's do the steps that we gotta do. I can help, whatever you need. if we need a vote on Thursday, let's have a vote, let's get it going. I know you have a lot of stuff going, but let's figure it out, because I think this is gonna be one of your gold stars, I think, of your career, I would think, is having this here and how it will change this community in a positive.
And didn't you say that when you are creating this, you're not just creating an outline, you actually have to go out and find your industry partners?
Yes.
Have already done all of the surveys and getting feedback from students and families and what their interests are. So
That's
it's
right.
really,
You need to
you're
have,
building and creating the program.
that's right, you need to have
Before
people
knowing, yeah.
sign off on it to even apply to Department of Ed. You need a higher ed partner, you need an industry partner. So that's usually a college president and usually a company owner or company regional manager at least.
What do you feel is the best avenue to go down, John? You looked at all the numbers, you know this is your bread and butter, this is what you do. So what do you think?
I actually think that the total 8th grade thing that we basically rejected is probably the best one.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So do you think that educating people as to why we came up with that solution after all this time and all these meetings? I mean, we didn't just do it on a whim, it was after lots of work. So do you think that educating people would help to convince them that that is the best solution for the overcrowding and the situation in town?
I mean, I believe that it could. I think that, we always say that there's overcrowding, but overcrowding doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. And I think that if people could see what the
Yeah.
overcrowding looks like
Mhm.
at Wilbraham Middle School, I think they might have a different perspective or realize, why we're looking to do what we're doing.
Right.
And it's not just because we feel like it.
People voice a lot of safety concerns with regards to their 8th graders going into high school. I think those could be addressed fairly easily. I mean, and the other schools have done it. We're not reinventing anything. This is not a novel idea. This is something that's going on everywhere, so.
When we brought up that we went to 3 different schools that had implemented this, who were very similar to us, but they happened to be on the Cape, which we went to all 3.
Mhm.
And then the response was, well, we're not the Cape.
Of course not.
So
We're
does-
Wilbraham,
yeah,
and we're
does-
Hamden, and.
Yeah, does that mean our kids are like meaner than the
Right.
kids on the Cape, or behave badly?
Right,
or-
yeah, I didn't quite understand.
Or like
people's-
are more targeting of younger
And again,
children to
I-
assault them or something?
I think
mean,
that was
it's
an
like-
education type of thing.
Yeah.
People don't understand all the groundwork that we've done to come to this
Right.
conclusion, so.
And the why we're doing it. I
Yeah,
think
why?
that it seems like we're just making that we made this rash decision, but people really need to understand the why
I
and
think-
see the why, and I think that I think we really have to show people the why. And also, I think that there was some uneasiness with people because they said, they were asking questions and there was no plan. Because it takes a lot of work to create a plan for something that you're not sure is gonna happen. But we do have policies, there are, rules. I mean, things aren't going to change because students are now gonna be in the high school, 8th graders. I mean, those same things could be happening in the middle school. So I think that, just maybe showing sample schedules or so people understanding, what it would look like with an 8th grader in the high school and how it may not be as detrimental.
It's not gonna be Lord of the Flies, and as our students, are, the 8th graders that we want to, protect or we're worried about, well, the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders are our students too. These aren't like inmates, that we import from a jail that are here and running around slashing people. These are our kids. These are the kids who've been brought up in this system. These are
They're the big
wonderful
brothers
kids.
and big sisters to a
And
lot of the middle.
babysitters, yes,
to a lot of the
exactly.
middle school kids,
Yes,
yeah,
and so
I agree.
it's like, what's gonna prevent them from doing, there's a lot that we have in place already. We talked to 3 different schools that went through the same process. The things that all the parents were worried about never materialized, and within months of the school opening, the parents were quiet and happy. And then when they had the opportunity to push the 8th grade back down, not a middle school, what is it called again?
Intermediate school.
intermediate school, to an intermediate school that they were gonna build, or they did build, they could push the 8th grade back, and they said, no, leave it at the high school, it's good. So I'm telling you, the research that we did, the people that we talked to, the steps that we took, we just didn't do a good job of just getting that information out to parents. I think that,
Well, let's face it, that night, that forum that we had, that was the first time people had even heard of this.
those people had even heard of
Yeah.
it.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of people
That's a
that
problem.
knew and were
Yeah.
very positive of it. I think a lot of people's knee-jerk reaction was, oh, wait a minute, in high school, my little girl in high school, oh no, but it's like, calm down, let's think it through, we have teachers everywhere, we have a plan in place, we have rules, let's
So,
talk about it.
a part of my view is I wonder if doing a program that could induce people to voluntarily come would be the education.
Right.
Because
Yeah,
what people were
the
saying
proof.
is, but those students on the Cape are different. Our kids are different, they won't be safe. Maybe the kids on the Cape are, but ours aren't. Maybe there needs to be an experience that shows, oh, they actually are safe.
That's why if we did the innovation pathways, and had a volunteer group that would go up, I think, I know Nicholas Kennedy will, I've talked to him about it, he's excited about it, he likes the idea. He's hoping he has an opportunity, and that's one student out of hundreds, but that's one student. And I know he'd love it. And, I would like to see something like this happen. So if we could take 100 8th graders and have them go, and then maybe we'd encourage the other 8th graders to participate as well. Or if they don't want to, and they want to stay in a school, in the middle school, we can accommodate that as well, because we've freed up the space. And I do want to point out something, and this is critically important, I believe. My son, who's in 6th grade, my nephew, who's in 8th grade, they don't know that the school is overcrowded, okay? The reason they don't know the school's overcrowded is because of the amazing job of the teachers and the administration there to work things out so the students don't feel it. I always, time and time again,
Plus, kids are resilient and flexible.
kids are resilient and flexible, right? But also, but seriously,
That's the other thing.
the teachers go out of their way to protect the kids, again, we always throw it on the shoulders of the teachers and the administrations to make things work, and then when they do, this is a great kudos, because I don't know any kid who's like, yeah, the place is really crowded, they're like, no, it's great. So, kudos to the team. But let's help them and free up some space.
I would just say about the forum, that there was a vocal few. Most of the other people listened, there was a vocal few. And there comes a time when you're an elected official, you have to do, you get one or two things. You can do the right thing, or you can do the popular thing. And the right thing was to go forward with the 8th grade and say, thank you, we heard you, we think this is the right thing. I mean, there could have been 1,000 people there. There was what, 100 and something. A lot of them were staff members, and you have a few local people. So I don't disagree that you need to always get the information out, but I think there was a lot of information out there. You did a survey, you had your group things, we had forums, we had meetings, and
I think overall in the community, there was no one that's like, that's an awesome idea. There's very few that were like, that's an awesome idea, let's do it. I think a lot of people are like, all right, if you say so, Sean, we'll have to trust you, but I'm really nervous about it. There was not that many gung-ho people out there, even with the information, even after I had conversations with them, explained things and showed
because it's a
them.
new thing, it's not what
Change
change
is
is.
bad.
Yeah, change. That whole change thing. I
I
went on vacation for a week last week, and I came back and there's major changes to the way things that we do at work. It's, amazing. But, again, change in life, change, people don't like change, but change can be a beautiful thing. Especially when you've researched it, you've looked at it, you've site visited.
How long is it, but it's gonna be 2 years before the innovative pathway can be really implemented, right? You gotta have a year to figure it out, and then you gotta have a,
If you do a year to figure it out, if you had kids, if you had enough kids, you could enroll them, not this year, but the following year.
so it'll be 2 years.
That's the plan that we were working for anyway, correct?
So you got two years.
Right? Yeah.
From over.
It would, the 25-26 school year.
And
We have one. I don't know if you get in, but we have one.
Yes.
Well, it depends what the innovation would be geared towards, or is he just up for
I
anything?
reviewed it, I said, what do you think about medicine or something like this and whatever, or it could be, you know,
Technology.
technology, whatever, and he likes technology the most, but he was saying like, yeah, anything like that would be great, the more knowledge, the better. And his wife, my wife, his mom is a nurse, so he likes talking with her about what procedures, what happened, and, you know, hearing all the fun stories of an ER nurse.
The benefit we have is that we already have a strong work-based learning program. The sort of weakness of it is that they're taking 1 or 2 kids. We need to find a big employer that could take masses of them.
Well, you're in luck because we have multiple colleges all around us, and we have multiple businesses all around us.
Are you talking
Many
like
of the
Bay State
CEOs
or
live in
Mercy?
town,
Yeah.
our town, you know, one town or the other, so, you know.
Would Amazon be a tech company?
Every time I watch a football game, I see, what is that? The ASW,
ASW,
whatever that thing is.
well, AWS, Amazon Web Services.
Could be.
I can make some calls. I think this would be fun for Amazon. And I think that a lot of people who work, especially at AWS, there's some sharp people. That'd be fun. I'll start asking. See what we can do.
I mean, cyber and AI are the big things in tech right now, which I kind of think they probably know a little bit about.
A little bit.
We also, you know, usually look to have some kind of financial backing for it, so. I hear they may be a profitable company too.
Yes, yes, I've heard that.
So,
I'll back up Don on his comment, though sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So if it comes down to it and that's the most feasible and best solution, then we have to do it. I mean, there's lots of things that happen that we don't like, but it's the best thing, you know, for the majority of people, so. Especially since all the facts that you have, I mean, nothing was detrimental. Were there any negatives to it? I mean, I don't recall anything that was major that stood out as far as a negative to that plan.
To bring 8th grade up?
Yeah.
Yeah, the only one negative that I keep coming back to is we did hear some people who said that, you know, not that the kids were, you know, unsafe or anything like that, but that they were exposed to higher content and they wanted them to have more time just to be kids. You know?
I agree with that 110%. That means no school, no phones in school, no phones in middle school, no phones in high school. Leave them at home or in the car. That's the only answer there. Or those bags they have those cyber bags or whatever, they lock them up, yeah. I mean, that's the answer to that.
The phones.
I've had conversations with friends and they're like, I want my kid to be a kid and stuff. And then I started asking them, well, when did you know? Oh, way before they did. Way before them. Oh, like years younger than they are now. I'm like, yeah, and your parents didn't think so, right?
Yes.
You know, my son knows about stuff that we haven't talked about yet, right?
middle
So-
schoolers know a lot.
It's
Yeah,
all,
yeah, It's that, and also it's their
It's-
friends talking, and older
Yes.
siblings, and everything, you know, and it's just
TV,
like,
the internet.
yeah.
8th graders know more than any high school kid did in 1988, I can tell you that much.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, but just to clarify my comment, I wasn't talking about that stuff. We heard people like, you know, so maybe you start math pathway sooner and the kid gets to calculus as a junior. And they're like, well, do we really want that? You know, maybe as an 8th grader, they should be out playing in the fields and not doing the math, you know, that.
I think we should be doing calculus in algebra in elementary school.
I think we should have wood shop and metal shop in middle school, so you can see if
Agree.
you like it. You know, that's a huge thing, that's gone, the kids don't get to do that anymore. And that was a huge outlet for kids, number one, and a huge way for kids to find out, oh, I actually like.
Not the high school, not at the middle school.
Oh, not in the middle school, you said middle school?
Well, I did it in middle school.
It used to be in the middle school, they
Yeah,
have
it used to
spaces
be-
for it at Wilbraham Middle, but
Yeah,
they
I
don't
did it in
use
middle
it
school.
That's right. I mean, that's a way for kids to say, oh, maybe I should be a carpenter, maybe I should be a welder.
Or just not even
Kids
that,
don't
it's
get
like,
any taste of that anymore in
Yeah.
middle school, it's all academic, academic, academic. They don't get to be kids anymore because the curriculum doesn't allow it, even from elementary school on. So we need to look as a whole, I mean, if that's our focus is just numbers and letters, then that's it. But let's face it, I just paid a guy $210 to clear a sink clog. He wasn't a licensed plumber. He was just working for a plumber company. Do you know how much that man made a year? $130,000, and he's not a licensed plumber. Licensed plumbers make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So I mean, sometimes I think the focus is, you know, we're way off with all this emphasis on academics and college and
we're bringing vocational to
You know,
ninth grade.
you know, we need to really, really look at that. If that's a solution, if that could free up some space, hey, I would be all for that. I'll vote for that. I said from the beginning, I would love to see TWB turn into a vocational school in our district. But, you know,
I think that the challenge of that would be the finances.
sure,
I mean, I'd say a minimum of $150 million.
Yep.
Because the shops are not cheap.
yep, no, absolutely, I know it. And it's a shame. You know, you have Westfield Voc, which has incredible programs and has expanded over the years rather than shrinking and shriveling up and going away. I would love for our kids to have that opportunity, because
Lower
that's
Pioneer Valley.
where,
Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative.
Why didn't they
They
get
have a
away
ton
from
of
that?
programs.
Why did they get away from that?
Get away from what?
no shopping.
I'm 100 years old, I know, but when I went, I had wood shop, metal
We all
shop,
did, we all
auto
had
shop,
that. We're not 100 years old now.
design,
Liability,
design, home economics.
yeah.
Yeah,
I would
okay.
say Ed Reform did it, because Ed Reform really started pushing schools to have kids achieve at higher levels, which meant all academics, essentially. So the comprehensive high schools of the past are basically gone.
Which I guess ed reform, which shows you how stupid ed reform would
Yeah,
be.
there you go.
Because I took all those things.
And calculus, and trig,
And
and,
that calculus,
chemistry,
right, and then I ended up going to pharmacy school, and I ended up getting 2 master's degrees, so
gee, you did pretty good.
apparently I did pretty good having wood shop.
Mhm.
I still can't
Mhm.
fix anything, but
I remember the hardest choice was, do you choose wood shop or metal shop? Because you had to pick one or the other. Everyone had to do home ec.
I went to urban schools.
We got them both.
And we got them both, and mechanical drawing, and design, and home ec, and auto shop.
I actually still have something that I made.
I made a smart.
We had to smell.
I made a smart. Yeah, wood shop, I still have it, yeah.
But if you look around, you'll see that comprehensive high schools are basically all split. You have a traditional high school and a
Yeah.
vocational high school in the place of comprehensive high school.
And that's really sad, because kids don't get to have a little taste of everything. It's like, you know, you want them to try all the veggies on the plate, not just the ones they like. Try them all, maybe you're really good at, but they don't get to, it's really sad. I wish that could get reformed.
And I'll say, maybe just to add one more on the other side of it, is the standards for the vocational have also gotten higher. So, you know, now it's like, they don't really, state's not interested in kids having a few hours to learn how to use a table saw and not be able to fix things. They want the hundreds of hours and the industry skills so they can go out and start doing something.
Right, get a job.
I will say that also out of the forum, I think a lot of, just even online, seeing a lot of the conversations that were elicited, people were able to ask questions, and then, there were responses. I know people had concerns with sports, will my 8th grader, if they're at the high school, they be able to play sports, because that was a big deal. So I think a lot of people did get their questions answered, and some of their fears, sort of settled, so that was a good, I think, a positive thing that came out of this.
Do you think more forums like that would be beneficial to have, like, you know, do that a few times a month to get the word out? I don't know, I don't know.
So there,
Yeah,
you know, I think the problem is you want people to show up. So I mean, we can hold as many forums as we'd like, but we really want people,
right,
the masses, to show up.
and let's face it, they don't show up.
Right.
You know,
I mean, so I think that it has to be, you know, I mean, social media is a great place to, you know, to campaign and put accurate information out, facts, like, so people, you know, can understand whether or not there's like an email address that's set up where they can email and, you know, have like FAQs, things like that. But I think social media would be a great place to sort of advertise what's happening and the reason why we're doing it.
What are you saying, everyone's on the town forums?
You know,
Everyone loves to argue and bicker about this and that, but maybe they could actually get educated on,
Right.
on the forum.
because I mean, there's a lot of information. I mean, some of those forums, you see hundreds of comments. So I mean, it would be nice for, you know, some factual information to be put
Yeah,
out there and people to see. And listen, they don't have to buy into it, they don't have to agree with it, but it's just having the information so they can make the most informed decision for them, you know. But I
So-
think that getting the information out there is really, really important, and social media just seems to be the best place, you know. And I think a fair amount of people also read the Times, so I mean, that, the Times and the Reminder, I think a lot of people are getting their information from there as well. But we just want to put an end to the misinformation and explain why we're doing it. And again, how it's going to impact them, and that we're not trying to disrupt all students', you know, education and get in the way of anything. It's just my opinion.
I make a motion. Michelle creates a website on Facebook page,
Second,
regardless of whatever we come up
Right,
with.
right. Sit and make posts all day long. Did you know? Ask
the
Michelle. Yes.
moving the 8th grade to the high school is the simplest, cheapest,
best.
and
Right.
best.
Mhm.
I know, I mean, I know so many people don't want it, but it just, in our situation, the way our towns are set up and all, it makes
Sense.
the most logical, fiscally, academically safest choice.
So I think we need to get that out there. Why? Be very simple, clear, concise about it. Why are you doing it? We shouldn't have 100 reasons why we're doing it. You know, what are the main reasons? What are we prioritizing?
So the whole thing with like you said, the overcrowding of the schools, the kids don't realize it, the parents don't realize it. What are we basing that on, that it's overcrowded? Just on statistics from the state as far as like you should only have this many kids in this
No.
room, or?
No, looking at it, I mean, just looking, I mean.
Oh, I
some of
know,
those-
just looking at, I can tell, I
I don't
don't
know,
need
what
someone.
happened like the fire department?
But I'm
you
saying,
know?
those are hard facts, that if we say, you know, this room has a capacity of, 26.2 people and there's 34 in it. I mean, things like that, so those are numbers and facts, that if we could put that out to people, and they're like, oh, I had no idea, it was,
It's really the spaces. I'm pretty sure one of the spaces that you described, either metal or wood shop, is now like 3 or 4 classrooms.
it is, yeah.
We've got teachers who are working out of closets. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're not gonna find, like class of 100 kids there, but you are gonna find teachers who are working in a lot of spaces that weren't designed for what they're being used for.
And having interactions with students in those closets.
Mhm.
You know, it's like I can,
That's the
yeah,
places
I
that
meant,
pages.
I meant like, professional,
Mhm.
like,
Oh, yeah.
instead of an office, you got 2 or 3 people in a closet and they have students come in and it's like kind of cramped up and whatever, and they're just trying to,
And that's
You
just
know,
improvising, everyone
yeah.
improvises,
Yeah,
I mean,
like I
let's
said,
face it, we all
but the
improvise,
students are okay
homework.
with it, but because the teachers are awesome at making it, they put, I saw it was a nice thing on the wall, scarf kind of thing, and they really dressed up so it was like, wow,
Sure,
really, you
they're-
did an
they're-
amazing
They're
job.
working with what they have, but
Yeah,
if we could do
yeah.
better, and we can,
Mhm.
I mean, like legitimately, we can, we should, and we have to explain that to people.
And
Okay,
the
so-
library, the library is the biggest one for me.
Yeah,
I think too, also, like, when we talk
Two
about
classrooms in
the
there?
eighth-
Yeah, three.
three.
Three?
the eighth grade, I mean, when we're talking about the eighth grade, because, so that was compounded also with the neighborhood schools, which I think a lot of people, from what we heard at the forum, you know, had concerns about. So I think if we're isolating, you know, the issue about the overcrowding of middle school moving to the eighth grade, you know, maybe that's what we're focusing on.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not trying to do it all at once, because I think that's,
That
you know,
might-
we don't
that might
know.
have been a big distraction.
yeah, so I think that, you know, if we focus on, you know, prioritizing, you know, reducing the overcrowding at the middle school, maybe that's what our goal is right now, to do that.
And changing the regional agreement to be
Correct, make the changes necessary.
K through 12, or what we said, 6 through 12, however we do that.
But I think it's too much disruption. I mean, that's what I heard. I heard that people felt that there was too many disruptions with what we were offering. And again, we did only hear from, you know,
Yeah.
a select population of people.
That makes sense.
But I think that, you know, maybe that was too much. And that's okay.
Is it on the agenda for Thursday? I didn't see the agenda.
Well, we have a planning, update in the
Oh,
committee,
okay,
update,
cool.
so that's what was required.
Good.
But we can have a more robust conversation and have an agenda item for the next meeting. Anything else to add?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Are we all good?
All right, roll call. Don,
Aye.
Terry,
Aye.
Sean,
Aye.
myself, I, we're adjourned at 6:42. And then
Is
next would be
that up?
to be